You're very welcome back to Nationwide. Now, do you remember this little lady, the floozy in the jacuzzi, who once resided on O'Connell Street? Well, her present location isn't too far from the National Museum at Collins Barracks, and she is just one of hundreds of sculptures and statues that are to be found in our capital city. Neal Doherty is a man who has written a book about the statues of Dublin, and our reporter, Valerie Waters, recently met him to find out more.
5 years ago, Neal Doherty was made redundant from his job with a multinational grocery company. He turned his life around by training as an Irish tour guide in the English and French languages. Now he has written his own guidebook on the statues and sculptures of Dublin City.
As a tour guide then, of course, I started to assemble lots of information, and I'm a great man, as you can see, for buying lots of books on the subject of Ireland and various aspects of it. And I was capturing this information and putting it into my computer, into a spreadsheet. And I thought to myself, it sort of started to dawn on me that, maybe I could use this information for something else besides guiding. And I thought maybe there was a book in it somewhere. So it was, I suppose, a bit of serendipity. I happened to meet another girl who's a guide, and she was also a commissioning editor for Orpin Press. And when I met her, I just said, look, I have this idea for a book on the statues and sculptures of Dublin. I said, do you think there's something in it? And she said, let me do a little bit of digging. And she came back about 2 weeks later and said, yeah, we think that there's a gap in the market for a book on the statues and sculptures of Dublin. So then the real work started. So jump forward about 18 months of intensive research and photography and discussing various aspects of sculptures with artists and sculptors and so forth, and that ultimately led to the production of the book, the complete guide to the statues and sculptures of Dublin.
There are 250 statues featured by 120 different artists, going back to the late 1700s up to the 21st century. All of the photographs bar 6 were taken by Neal himself. The book is divided up into 5 parts so that each part can be done as a separate walking tour. So why not start off in the city southeast at Merrion Square with what must be the most popular of them all, Oscar Wilde.
I love bringing people to Oscar Wilde because it's a truly magnificent statue. Very well known internationally. Unlike some of our writers, we think that the likes of Joyce and Yeats will be known internationally. Well, everybody knows Oscar Wilde. And it's quite a remarkable statue because of all of the different stones that are used in the making of it. You have stone from Canada, you have stone from Norway, you have stone from India. For example, the shoes and socks are black granite that comes from India. And a nice little touch is that you have Oscar Wilde wearing the alumni tie of Trinity College, where he was once a student.
Moving into the city south central, we find ourselves in Stephen's Green at the statue of the Three Fates.
The statue was actually donated by the German government in the 1950s to say thanks for Operation Shamrock. This was an operation in which the Irish people welcomed children from Germany after the Second World War. These were all orphans, and they were fostered here by Irish people for a number of years. Some of them would have remained, indeed up to 50 of the children actually remained here in Ireland, although most of them did return to Germany eventually.
The Ivy Gardens, which are in the same section of the city, have a musical connection.
We've just arrived here in the beautiful Ivy Gardens, and here is one of my absolute favourite statues, is the statue of John Count McCormack. And he was actually one of my father's favourite singer, and this is why I like this statue particularly. And of course, John McCormack, he was an international superstar in his day. He was as big in his day as Pavarotti would have been when he was alive. And he's famous for his breath control. And one of the songs that demonstrates this is Il mio tesoro from Don Giovanni by Mozart. And in this song, he sings 64 notes without taking a breath. quite remarkable indeed.
And that old triangle is when jingle jangle along the banks of the Royal Canal.
And to a singer of a different kind, we skip over to the city northeast to see Brendan Behan.
I do love the statue. It's an absolutely incredible statue. And you know what I really like about it is the fact that while many Dubliners will know and love Brendan Behan, they don't know about this statue, which is just located off the main Drumcondra Road along the Royal Canal.
In his book, Neal Doherty poses questions to the reader such as, do you know what piece of music is featured on the statue of Daniel O'Connell? Do you know where the 10 Virgins are located on O'Connell Street? And do you know which Dublin statue has a cat and a hat as symbols of freedom? Neal Doherty's outlook on life has helped him to stay motivated. And now the work put in is showing results as the book is going into its 3rd reprint.
I suppose I always had the philosophy, I would use the philosophy of Gandhi, which would be live life like you're going to die tomorrow and learn like you're going to live forever. And that's kind of the philosophy. I do like to get involved in things, to try different things, and you know, I mean, life is not a rehearsal, and I suppose this is, I suppose, the outcome of that kind of philosophy.
This book is not just for tourists. It has great appeal for Dubliners too. It's even another way of learning the history of the city.
It tells the story of the city. You can tell the whole history of the city from its statues, from Daniel O'Connell to the arrival of the Vikings to the 1916 rebellion. It's all in there. And, you know, so every aspect of it is covered. And I think that's why it should appeal to Dubliners, because there is so much of the city that they don't know. I would invite them to come and read the book and to become a tourist in their own city.
The complete guide to the statues and sculptures of Dublin City is published by Orpan Press.
And Neal Doherty's book is a fascinating read with lots of information and nuggets for anybody who has an interest in the history of Dublin. And so we've come to the end of this evening's programme. I hope you enjoyed what we had on offer this evening. We're back again on Wednesday with more tales and stories from around the country, and we look forward to your company then. Bye-bye. On next Wednesday's Nationwide, a clinic where horses provide people with calm, supported. The story of Irish people's experiences with polio in the 1960s and the Leaving Cert student who was determined to live his life to the full and embrace every opportunity.